Hello, good evening, sir. Mm, mm, McDowell, Flash. Hello, good evening, everyone. Please, can you all hear me?
Yes, I
Am
can.
I
I can
audible?
hear you. Yes,
Yeah, I
you
can
are.
hear you.
You are audible.
Okay, so you're all welcome to another wonderful session like this. And I'm glad that you all joined today as well. So this is going to be a class based on HTML basics. As you can see on your LMS, it's going to be HTML basics. Then I believe Toby has taught you some core concept of HTML as well earlier today. So if you're not able to join, you can watch the recording. So let's just wait 2-3 minutes for others to join.
We can't hear anything, no.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. So I said you are all welcome to this session, and I'm sure you can see my screen now. So as I've said earlier, this is going to be basic concept of HTML strictly. So please let's not ask questions about JavaScript or CSS for now, unless I actually touch CSS myself. And at the same time, I also said we can resave all our questions during this session to when I actually give the opportunity to ask the questions by raising a hand. You can ask the question by raising a hand, not unmuting direct. So please, thank you all for cooperating. So we can just get started today. So today we are going to be treating another interesting aspect of HTML, which is very, very essential and a very common one to every web applications you see out there. So we are going to be treating HTML forms. HTML forms. So as you can see, I already created a file named form.html. So I believe by now everybody should be able to create a file like this, an HTML file like this, in any editor you're actually using, either JetBrains or VS Code. So today we are going to be treating HTML forms. So HTML forms are like forms used to collect user inputs on a web application. So that's the simple definition of HTML forms. So, and we have different HTML forms out there. So every day we all see HTML forms. For example, I'm going to be showing you some of the forms out there. For example, we have, let's say you actually want to log into Netlify or something. Let's say you want to log into Netlify. So you are going to see an example of a form now.
Please zoom to 100% so that we can see your full screen. Thank you, sir.
Okay, excuse me, please. So if you are just joining, you are welcome to the class. So as I've said, we are talking about forms. So this is a very basic example of a form right now. So as you can see, this form is requesting two inputs from the user. The first one is what? Email, and the second one is the user's password. So this is a very basic example of a form. Forms are used to collect users' inputs. So from there, how do we create a form in HTML? So we use an element called form to create a form. So form is actually a very interesting part in HTML. So let's see how forms work. because every day we all use form. When you want to log into your probably your Facebook app, your Instagram, or when you want to sign up, they ask for your username, your email address, your password, and probably your mobile number. So all those screen you have been seeing, they are called forms. They used to collect user inputs. So let's see. So I'll be creating my HTML boilerplate very fast. So that's that. Then we can give it the title of HTML forms. So now, I'm sure this is clear to everyone by now. So now we have the form elements in HTML. So this form element is created by using form. So inside this form now, we can have different input boxes. So like Netlify that I just showed you, you can see they have how many input boxes? They have like 2 input boxes here. So which is the email box and the password box to collect two different data from the user. So right now, let's just try to start with one. So we can start with one right now. So every input can actually have a label. So there's something we call inputs. Let's start with inputs. These inputs right now, before we proceed, I'll preview this on the browser. Let's see how this looks like now. What I did was I only created the form elements, then I added an input tag here. So let's see how it looks like on the content. So can you see that? So basically, this is what we have for now. And it is getting similar to what we actually have here. It's getting similar to this box we actually have here. Just that this is actually styled, but it is created with HTML forms. Okay, so from there now, let's try to add label. This input box now is just dummy. Users can't even know what they are to input, what they are to insert into this box. So we can make it easier for the user by adding a label. So that label can be something like, okay, enter your email address, enter your password or username. So that's where label comes in. Label elements, label. So this label, just by typing in label like this, then choose the label right here. So that's how you create a label. So now inside this label, you can put in the text you want to actually reveal to the world. Like, okay, let's say username. So that label is for the next input right here. So as you can see, this label has the 4 attributes. So what these 4 attributes is for? So these 4 attributes is like trying to specify the exact input box that this label is working for. The exact input box that this label is what is working for or is attached to. So because actually you might have different input boxes after this, might have like 20 input boxes, but at the same time, this label must be, these 4 attributes is telling us the exact input box that the label is attached to. So that's why you can now say ID, you can give it an ID and then give it a name. So you can say username. I think someone is actually not muted. So this is an ID. So if you don't know anything about ID yet, so ID is just like a unique identifier. So when you add ID to an element, it's like you are giving it a name or a unique way of identifying the element. So this ID is just like giving it a name. So right here we give it an ID of username. So this username exactly, you copy it and you paste it inside your 4 attributes. You might not copy, but to ensure 100% accuracy, these 4 must be equal to what you have in your ID, because this for is telling us that the label is for an input box with an ID of username. That's why they have the same username. So that's what the for attribute is actually used for in this scenario. So let's see how that looks like on the browser. So you can see that now. So this is getting clearer now because the user now know what he or she is to input. So the user now know what they are to input in the input box. So the username can be at something, something, something. So this is getting clearer because of the what? Because of the label. So let's see how we can now break this into two lines. So I'm sure okay, excuse me, Ibukun, I'll get back to you. So I'm sure you must have heard of BR, which is line break. I think it was used in the line last session too. So BR is for line break. So what I want to do basically before I implement that is that I want to break username and this box into different lane. They are currently on the same line now. So to break them, you use BR. For now, you use BR. Later on, you can use CSS to break it. But for now, in this HTML, we can use BR, which stands for line break, to break them into different lines. So right now, this is what we have. So username, then under it, you can enter your username. Okay, before you proceed, so I think Ibukun, please can unmute and talk.
Hi, Stephen. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. You can go ahead. You are muted. You are muted. Please unmute. Oh, I think she's out. But at this point, does anyone have any
Stephen,
question?
can you hear me? Sorry, my network kicked me out. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hello?
I can hear you now.
So, yeah. Okay. So I wanted to say that please, I want to say that please, after the class, can you go over it again? Because I just joined and I did not really understand.
Okay. Basically, we just started actually. This is just 15 minutes into the class. So you can actually watch the recording. You get that? You can actually watch the recording because we actually have limited time. We have just an hour and about over 15 minutes is gone out of it now. So the recording will be uploaded. You can watch the first 15 minutes of the recording. Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Adama,
thank
please
you.
unmute and talk.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. The issue here is I don't know who is responsible for uploading the content on the YouTube, because even the classes we had on Tuesday, I haven't been able to see them. That's one.
Okay.
Then the point now is, while we are being assured of watching the recording and it's not being uploaded, other newer things comes on board, and then it gives us the difficulty to go back to them. I don't know if you understand. So I don't know who is responsible for the upload. If it's not going to be uploaded on YouTube, then link of wherever it's been saved on Drive should be sent to us, instead of waiting for any editing that they want to do or before uploading on YouTube.
Okay. I think I understand you. So sorry about that. I'll actually will look into that. So I'll speak with the people in charge if they can make the recording faster. I mean, if it can come out earlier. So okay. Is that all for now? Or any other question from any other person?
Yes, sir, please. I only have an observation pertaining to what Adama just said now. I just want to add something to it. I just have a suggestion in the sense that, is there any possibility of just helping us to drop the class immediately on Slack? So the one they
Okay,
want to
you mean
upload on YouTube, they can just go edit that one and put on YouTube. But for us, I think immediately after the class, I don't think anything stopped them from just give us the link to Slack.
okay. Okay, I understand you. All right. Thank you for that suggestion. Okay, so I can continue right now. Let's see what's happening in the chat. So, yeah. All right, so let's just move on for now. We speak about we look into the recording later. So thank you for that. Okay, so that's that about inputs. So one other thing you can also add to this input box now, apart from the label, is actually what we call a placeholder. So as you can see here now, this website is not using a label. They are not using a label, they are using a placeholder rather. So you can use any of the two in your website design. So you can see label might be outdated or something. So I think placeholder is also widely used for most websites. So to use placeholder, we also add an attribute called placeholder. So this is also inbuilt into HTML. So there's an attribute called placeholder. So you enter placeholder. Then inside the placeholder, you can enter your customized message. So your message can be enter your username. So your message can be enter your username. Let's see how that looks like. When you go to the browser now. So can you see that? So that's what we call placeholder. That's how placeholder work. So most times you don't need to add label after adding placeholder. So the two can be used interchangeably. So that's how to use placeholder. When you start typing now, the placeholder will disappear. So those are small tricks you can perform with HTML. So that's that about placeholder. I think that's clear enough. That's clear enough. Excuse me, please. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, this placeholder, and that's how placeholder is used. So one funny thing about inputs now is that we can have different type of inputs, not only text. So you might be looking at this type attribute that, okay, what's this type attribute doing there? So this type attribute is actually telling the input or the browser that what the user is expected to insert into the input box is a text. It must be inside, it must be in a text format. So we are asking for username. A user cannot enter email address or enter a phone number where they are supposed to enter username. So that's what text is doing here. That the form, the message to be inserted into this box, the data should be in form of a text. And that's why you can see here we are able to enter a text to this box. So let's try another type of inputs. Let's try another type of input. So I'll just duplicate this. For those just joining, label is just like telling us what these inputs is actually based on. The field of these inputs. So I'll just duplicate this place from label because we want to create something similar to this. So I've duplicated that now. To duplicate is actually very easy. I think that's Shift Alt down arrow key. So I've duplicated this now. Then we can change this to email. Let's try out email. After the user has inserted their username, let's try out email. So I can change this placeholder to email, enter your email. Then now the ID will also be changed to email. Don't forget ID. I said ID is acting like a unique identifier right here. ID is acting like a unique identifier just to specify or to tell the browser that this label is for an input with the ID of email. So I will change these 4 attributes to email as well. It must be the same text as what we have in this ID. It must be the same exactly. So you can copy and paste it or type it out yourself. So now inside this type attributes, this type will not be text, because your email is not an ordinary text. It also have your art. I mean, probably your email might be so at gmail.com. So you can put the type of email. So that's also inbuilt in HTML. HTML allows you to insert or to customize your input box to allow only data that's related to emails. So let's see how that works now on the front end. So this email, this is the first one we did, which is the username. This is the second one, email. Don't mind this. This might be looking ugly now. You can edit this later with CSS. So this email now, when we try to submit, we are still going to create a submit button. Just like what we have here, there's a sign up button, which we use to submit the data. So we are still going to create a submit button. So when we try to submit and the text inside this place is not an email, it will throw an error that, okay, this input field is supposed to contain an email address. So let's continue for now and let's see how that works. So email. So now to just test it out if it is working, we are going to create a button to submit. We are going to create a button to submit. So don't forget, everything still inside this form elements. Everything still inside this form element. But before I move on to that, if you have any question, you can probably drop it in the chat or raise a hand. Okay. I think someone is actually bringing up something here. Lecture without practicing is worthless. Okay. And I also noticed that some of us code along during class or during classes. So I think that's not going to be the best. To code along is not going to be the best. So during the classes, during the live sessions, is always good for you to just concentrate and try to grab as much as possible. So probably when you want to practice, maybe when you are watching the content on your LMS, that you can actually pause and open. Okay, this is a good question. Yeah. Okay, someone is saying it's looking a little bit complex. Don't worry, it's going to be easy. So what's the work of action after the form's opening tag? So this person is actually talking about action here. Action. So why are we using action? I've not mentioned action. I've not talked about it. So this action is going to contain an endpoint where your data will be submitted. So this action at this point might not be actually useful because you guys have not learned JavaScript. So how web applications or websites works is that when a user sign up, when you want to sign up, maybe you want to sign up on Facebook now, then you insert your first name, your last name, your email address, your password. So all this data will be sent to an endpoint, to a database. So all your data will be stored in a database. If you have not heard of a database before, so a database is just like a store where you keep all the records or collections of every user that's actually using probably a website or a web application. So all your data are actually stored in a database. So that database is just like a container or a store whereby we have all the records of all the users. So your username, your email, everything will be stored separately. So your email address is mostly your unique identifier on every website you sign up on. So after signing up and your data is stored, after inserting all these, your username, your email, your data will be sent to an endpoint. So in this case, that endpoint is going to be here. It's going to be in form of an URL. And after it is sent to it, the backend will now undo that. So the work of the front end is to do what? Create this interface for the user. Then after collecting the data, send it to this endpoint. So the endpoints will be provided by the backend developer. So the endpoints will be provided by the backend developer. But for now, we are not going to go deeper into that because we have not started doing JavaScript. So this is still HTML for now. Everything is still dummy. Nothing is working for real. But we are trying to like get the structure of every website. So HTML is not like full of functionalities. So JavaScript is the one full of functionalities and probably some advanced CSS. So just forget about the action for now. I can also remove it if you like. Don't worry too much about these action attributes right here. So at least I hope you understand what the action attribute is used for right now.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Please,
Yes.
just a little recap again. I didn't get that. I think I stopped at where you said something back end endpoint. Please, can you come again with the action?
Okay. Okay, I was actually saying this action attribute contains the endpoint. If you contain the endpoint where your form data will be submitted to. After you click on the submit button, probably we are trying to build a sign up page now, and you click on sign up, all your email, your username, your password, you ever wonder that, okay, where do they go to after you click on sign up? You don't see them again, right? Because they are sent to an endpoint. So that endpoint is created by the database. Don't forget, web application is actually, a complete web application is actually containing the front end and the back end. So you are doing the front end and another person in the back end track is doing the back end. So the back end will send the endpoint URL to the front end, and the front end will also make sure they submit this data that we are collecting from the user, send it to the back end. So that's when the back end will now store data that has been sent from the front end. So I know this might actually sound complex now, but don't worry about action, as I've said. Don't worry about this. This is smallest of all. So later on. So let's just focus on label and inputs for now. For everyone feeling lost or getting lost at this point, just try to focus. I'll be rewinding a little bit as we move on. So this is just a brief explanation of what we have done so far. You have your inputs. We started with the form elements. We said forms that are used to collect data or user inputs from web applications. So we use form elements to create a form. And how does the form look like? Something like this or something like this. So this is an example of a form whereby you insert your details. So that's what we have here. We start with a form element. So inside this form elements now, we have the input box. So this input box is what you can see here. This box right here, this rectangular box, right? So that's the input box. And it is having a type of text. So this type of text is telling you that username should be in form of text. But the second one is email, because we are requiring the user to insert email here. So the text shouldn't be ordinary text. It should be full. It should also contain maybe the @gmail.com or something. You know, @gmail.com is not ordinary text again. It's not ordinary text again. So that's why we are using the type of email. So, and then what other thing in the input box? I'm trying to explain the input box. So another thing here is the ID. So don't worry too much about the ID. The ID is going to be taken care of as well when we start doing CSS. So ID is a unique identifier. Is a unique identifier, you can see. ID defines a unique identifier which must be unique in the whole document. So this ID must be unique, is the only one you must give the name to. You can't give another element ID of username because you're already giving this one ID of username. So it's just like having 20 students in a class and you want to call a particular student in a class, how do you call them? How do you identify that exact student you actually want to bring out from the class? By his name or her name. So that name is the unique identifier. So it's very possible that 20 students in a class are not bearing the same name. So that's what we are also doing here. In these two inputs, every input right here must not have the same ID. So ID is a unique identifier. So now we are calling that ID that, okay, inputs with a name of username, I mean, with an ID of username, come out. This label is for you. That's why you can see for ID of username, username, username. Insert data of his ID, insert it there. This label is for ID, it's for username. So that's what the 4 attributes is doing there. So I think that one is clear enough. I think that's clear enough. So from there now, we can move on to another. I can see someone mentioning password in the chat box. So let's do password. So I'll create a new one now. I'll not duplicate it so that if you are feeling lost, you can go out, you can put it together. So don't forget, the first thing you can do is to start with your label. So label, then inside this label, you can say enter your password, or you can say password. So you can say password. Then under your label, you have your inputs. So inputs, can you see VS Code is showing you every type of inputs that you might have. Inputs, we have the normal inputs, we have the B, we have the button, we have checkbox, color, date. So there are different input types here. So, but which one are we using? Which one are we doing now? We are about to do password. So you choose the one for password. So you can choose the one for password right here. Then you give it an ID of password. So this ID will then be inserted into the 4 attributes, as I've explained earlier. So then you can also have a placeholder. But before we add the placeholder, let's see how this looks like. So can you see that? A password. But this password will be unique. It will be different from others in such a way that it has a type of password. It has a type of password. So when I type into it now, can you see how the text, can you see the text are not revealed? I can't see the text, and you looking at my screen also can't see the text in it. Why? Because it has the type of password. So that type of password is actually helping to encode the text that you are typing inside it, just like what you have here. This won't show also. So that's what they also used here. They used a type of password. They gave the input a type of password. So this one is different from, your input here with a normal type of text. Text will be revealed to everyone, but this one is password. So that's how password work, and we can add the placeholder now. So placeholder can then be enter your password. So this is how the placeholder is looking like. Enter your password. Okay, so, and if I check it now, you can see it's also having a placeholder of enter your password. So if you can't notice the placeholder is like this watermark you can see here, this is enter your password. In the background, when I start typing into it, it will disappear. So that's the placeholder. That's how placeholder work. So that's that about the password. So does anyone have any question at this point?
I have a question. So,
Yes.
I hear me, yeah. So for a better user experience, right? We used to put this eye icon for you to be able to open and close your password so that you can see what you are typing. So if you want to put that one, how do we put the icon there?
Okay.
Did you get me?
That's
Yeah.
yes, that's your question. So that eye icon now is not, you can't do it with ordinary HTML. So the eye icon is going to be a function in JavaScript. Don't forget, JavaScript is used to add interactivity to a web page. So what you are saying right now is that you want to make your web page interactive. Like when the user click on the eye, okay, they don't have it here. When the user click on an eye icon here, they will be able to see, or they will be able to hide or reveal the text in this password box. So that can actually be done using JavaScript and CSS. So the combination of the three, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. So that was higher than this level right now. So I hope
Okay.
that question
Thank
is
you. Yeah. Thank you.
clear. So yeah, someone is asking, is there input for age? I mean, yes, there's an input for date of birth. Let's just touch a couple of it. I showed you some of it then, so let's just touch another one. I'll just create a label. So let's just create another input. So you can see we have dates, we have sure that one is common. We have number, we have range. So this number now, we also have telephone number. So let's try dates. So these dates now, let's see how it works. This is how dates will look like. Can you see this? So let me put the label, dates, then forward for dates, and in the ID, put date again. So this is the code, and this is how it is reviewed on the browser. So this dates, so when I click on dates now, this is the difference. When I click on dates, it will actually show that date picker, whereby I can choose my, probably this is an input box for choosing your date of birth. So probably I can then choose my date of birth or something. So that's how dates work. It will show a date picker. So why? Because we gave the input a type of date, So another one, let's do like one or two more. Sorry about that. So let's do, okay, let's do file. So this file now is also very common. So you can upload a file, maybe your image, to the site. Let's see. Maybe upload a file. I'm coming. So this is how file work now. If I click on this, it will give me the option to choose a file from my computer. So probably you've visited any websites that they are actually asking you to choose a file. Maybe you want to upload your profile picture and they say choose a file. So you choose it, you click on it, then it will bring an option to choose. Maybe you want to choose from your pictures or your photos to upload your DP. So that's how file work. So HTML is also functional up to some extent. So just that when you start doing CSS and JavaScript, you'll be able to customize all this to, your preference. So you might not want to use this design here. You might want to use another design, maybe put an image, then when they click on it, it will bring up an interface to choose a file. So HTML is not customizable. That's just the issue with HTML. It also has some functionality in it. So that's that about file. And then lastly, let's just do, we can also do um, Okay, let's do number or radio. Let's do radio. I also want to use the opportunity to explain radio. So let's see how radio looks like. Okay, this is how radio looks like, but I'll explain. Currently, this is radio. So radio can also have a value. So and the label can also be, let's say, male. So you must have attended some websites whereby you'll be seeing something like this. I'll duplicate this and put for female as well. Okay, so you might have attended some sites and you'll say, okay, choose your gender, and you choose either you're male or female. You choose either you're male or female, but there's something wrong right now. You shouldn't be able to choose the two together. Let me see. It's been a while I've used this. Okay, anyways, this is how radio button works. This is how radio button works. I mean, radio inputs rather. So it allows you to choose or select from different options. So now let's just try to submit all this data that we have been inserting. All this data, let's try to submit it. If you're asking about action, we've talked about action and method. So we talked about action. So basically now, just for people asking about action and method, just wait a little bit till you start JavaScript. If you should start explaining action and method now, a lot of people will be lost. So let's just try to understand the structure of forms for now, before knowing how to submit your form to the backend. So someone is raising hand, please. I think that's Kesh. Please go ahead.
Good evening.
Hello, I can hear you.
My question about the input of age is not like that date, month and year. Like, is there a input or is there an input like where you will input your exact age, like 25 years, 18 years or something, not just
Your,
date, month and year?
your audio is not very clear. I don't know if anyone can hear and actually tell me what you have said in the chat.
Can you
I
hear
can't
me?
hear you. You can give it a try again. Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I said the question I had about the age is not that date, month, and year. I'm trying to ask, like, is there an input where you will just input just an like that your age, exactly your age, 25 years, 18 years, not the one that you choose your date of birth.
Oh, yeah. It's actually an input to enter number. So I think for that age, there's no exact input for age, as you can see here, but you can see there's an exact input for number here. So your age is in numbers, like 12, probably you're 12 or 13 or 14. So you can insert that in number. So let's see how that works now. So this cannot accept text. It can only accept number. And you can increase it with this. Can you see that? So there might actually be a label like, what is your age? So you can't see an input box whereby you type, maybe after 14, you now type 14 years. No, it won't allow that unless you want to use input box of type text. So the user will be able to do 14 years. But if you have to do something like this, then you are going to put a label on top. The label will be like, okay, age, then in years. So this is actually Where's the input box? Where is the input box? Okay, this is right here. It's because of the BR everywhere. Coming. Okay, so when you do something like age, so the person trying to insert something and in age, we actually know that, okay, it's in years. So who is that now? Mohammed, I can see your watermark on the screen. So you can actually insert 56. So that would be like 56 years. You can increase it with this. You can increase it or decrease it with this arrow down here. So that's how the number type work. So I think that should answer your question. That should answer your question.
Yes, it
So
Sorry,
does.
hello?
Thank you very much.
I did not.
hello,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, my network that has been kicking me out. I just wanted to see how you did that age again, like how the drop down works. What did you do differently?
Nothing serious, just change your type to number. Yeah, so just use the type of number. So it won't accept text, it only accepts number. If I try to type in text here, it won't accept it. So there are different types of inputs. You can see right now we've treated like over 6 or 7 types. So you can't treat everything in this session. So let's just try to do the submit button and see how everything works before our time runs.
Mr. Steven, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, ma.
Since you said HTML is limited to some things, I think when we get to JavaScript, like there should be an
Yes.
input for that kind of this in that marks, like age with years. I don't know if you understand.
Okay, I get you. Like, you just want that years to be there.
Yes, I just like it's just to appear 29 years, 25 years.
This is nothing serious. You can design your site anyhow you like. You can actually use text, common text. Then here someone can actually do 16 years. So that's if you use an input box of text. So I think that's what can make that possible. But you must actually develop your own functions to make your password have years. So that's not an issue. But as far as I'm concerned, I think the text input box is the best for that. If not that, then you can use this format too. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
So MKS, please, I will come back to your question. So from there now, let's try to do this submit button. So the first thing is to create a button. I don't know, are we all familiar with creating a button? So the button is as simple as this. A normal button is like this, but in this scenario, we want to submit all the form data. So our button, we have a type of submit. So when you want to create a button, BUTT, then you choose submit. Submit. That is, submit all these stuffs that we've done to the backend, although we don't have any backend right now. So leave it. So now, don't forget, everything must still be inside your form element. The form is the parent container. Everything must be inside that container. So this submit button can then have something like sign up. So when we go to the browser now, you can see we have that sign up button right there. Excuse me. Okay, so we have this sign up button right there now, which is created using the submit button, and the type is submit. So from there now, so let's try to submit all what we've done. Right now, everything is submitting, even though we not insert anything in all these input box. Everything is submitting. One thing about your submit button is that when you click on it, by default, it will reload the page. It will reload the page. You can see it is reloading the page. So this reloading can actually be stopped using JavaScript. So that is where you can prevent the default action. But I also want to do something in such a way that when user don't insert anything in all these input box, it should throw an error. Why should you submit something that you haven't that is blank? For example, now when I try to sign up here without putting my email or password, to throw an error. Please fill out this field. So we want to do exactly something like this in our scenario too. So to do this, we add an attribute called required. How is required working? So let's start from the top. So this placeholder, after this placeholder, this username input box right here. Let me format this. Something wrong. Okay, so after this placeholder, you can add an attribute called required. So this required is like trying to validate that input box. That is, when the user doesn't insert anything, it will throw an error that this field, this input box is required. You must insert a text. So let's see how it works. So, okay, I'll submit now. Can you see that the first one is now throwing an error, just like how we have it in Netlify. So it's now throwing an error now. Please fill out this field. You can't customize the error message right now with common HTML. So please fill out this field. So this validation is a simple HTML validation. And what do we mean by validation? That is trying to validate the input box, trying to check the required input boxes. That is, your email is required, your username is required. You must insert it before submitting. You can't submit an empty box. So that's why we're having this required. So when I enter something here and I submit, you can see it is reloading. So I can also add required to others like email. The email, all you need to do is just to add this required, this word required inside your inputs. Required, required, required. Very simple. Very simple. So let's just comment this for now to make everything clearer. So I've commented all that for now to make everything clear. So when I sign up now, the first one is required. And I enter the first one and I try to sign up again to tell me the second one is required. So now look at email. You can see the error email is actually throwing. What error is it throwing? Saying, please include an @ in the email address. But it is not doing same for this first one. Why? Because the type of the input box is email address and it is expecting at gmail.com or at yahoo.com or any @ So that's why it is telling us that, okay, it is validating the form that this is not a valid email. So after this, if I add @ now, then it is still telling me, please enter a path following @ It is still incomplete. So then I can now complete this. So the error will be gone. The error will be gone. So this password now is also throwing an error. This field is required. This field is required. So when I sign up now, it is actually working. So any question at this point? Mkesh, you can speak now.
Yes, thank you. My first question is this. You said everything must be inside the form. Like, can I have a separate form for a username, another form for email, another form for password?
Okay, no. If you are submitting them to the same endpoint, it will affect your code when you start doing JavaScript. You can't have different form for different inputs. You must have one form from one screen, I mean one login screen or one sign up screen, because everything will be submitted together. You're not going to submit them separately. You can't submit username separately. It must be attached together. The person with this username must also have the same email. I mean, the email,
Okay.
my
Okay.
email must be the same. Okay,
All right.
what's that?
What if you said yesterday that div is a block element? What if I put everything inside a div and I decided to give it like a separate form? How about that? Because I'm
No,
just thinking. Okay.
putting it in separate form is going to cause problems. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to say. So
Oh,
it's just like you want to submit. How will I say it? What illustration can I use? You want to submit a complete data to a database or to an endpoint. You can't be submitting them one by one differently. Even your endpoint won't recognize that, okay, this username is attached to this person's email or to this person's password. Everything will be scattered, but they must go together in the same form.
okay. All right.
Just like you
Thank
want to
you.
submit, just like you want to submit 3 files on a table. So they must be inside the same folder, not another file, another file. They must be attached so that they can actually recognize, okay, this folder is coming from this so person. So that's
All right.
just how it works.
Thank you. My second question is this. Okay,
Yes.
this is a sign up database. How about a login database? Is this still the same thing?
It is the same for your front end. This is just an illustration. You might decide to change your own to login instead of sign up. I mean the button. You might
Okay,
decide to
okay.
change it. So this is just to show you can edit all the content to anything you like. That username can be first name or last name or anything. So I think
All
that's
right.
clear.
But, okay,
So
thank
yes, okay. So Catherine, you can go ahead.
Hmm. Okay, so what I wanted to ask is is for the password placeholder.
Yes,
Like there's some password that you want to type it and then it'll tell you please input numbers and maybe hash sign and the rest with
yes,
yeah. So is it here we can do that in HTML?
yes.
So please, how do we do that?
So basically, for what you said is like you try to create password on the site and they'll be telling you please include a capital letter, include an numerical letter or something like that. So you can do that with HTML, but more advanced with JavaScript. You can customize it with a lot more with JavaScript. That is, if your user doesn't enter an alphabet, a number, or anything, they won't be allowed. So, but we can't look at that again at this time. Our time is up. So let me quickly, but basically password, you can just go to your Google and type in password validation in HTML. It will bring out everything. So is that clear?
Yeah, it's okay. So
I
sorry,
don't, I
how
don't,
about
um,
sorry, just one last question. I just want to ask, so the label, sorry, the placeholder too. The is this placeholder, is it like the normal placeholder in HTML, like the width and the length, or do we have to put like maybe a number for the width or the size and the rest?
like you're talking more of style.
No, like I'm just asking, is it in HTML they do that or in CSS or JavaScript?
No, this placeholder right now is in CS, is in HTML. Don't forget
Yeah,
what we
that's what
have
I'm
here.
saying. Yeah, I'm seeing the length, like is it just the actual length? That is just a placeholder. That is the usual length for a placeholder, or do they have a particular number they can add to the placeholder for the width or the length? That's what I'm saying.
want to increase the width or length, you can do that with CSS later on. You can start your placeholder with CSS.
All
Well,
right,
basically,
thank
this is the default one by HTML. This is the default size provided by HTML. So you can change the font size of your placeholder. You can change the color later on. You can change the font family later on with CSS.
you. All
So,
right, thank you.
okay, you are welcome. I'm afraid to call this name.
Mesoma,
Ugwami.
please, sir, how do you add spaces amongst this content? Like, what are you going to like? What are you going to type to create spaces? Like, they are jam packed. So how do you keep the spaces?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, as
how?
I've said, you have to use break. You have to use break in HTML, line break. This BR is the one I'm using to break into different lines. I hope that's clear. This BR right
But
here,
how do you add more spaces?
if you want to add more space, then you add double BR for now. When you start doing styling, then you can add space. But for HTML, only HTML, raw HTML, you can add as many spaces as you want with BR. If you add 10 BRs, then the space will continue increasing. Can you see that? So BR
Okay.
is what you can use for
Yes,
now.
yes.
Yes. But when you start learning CSS, BR is not advisable anymore. So
Thank you,
okay.
sir.
Yes, you are welcome. Tim, please go ahead.
My question is, like in some inputs, like if you are imputing characters, you might be asked to impute not more than 8 characters or a minimum of 8 characters. Can we do that with HTML?
Yes, you can do that with HTML. So there's an attribute you call max and min. I'm sorry, at this level, I won't be coding again. So max and min. So you can set your max to, okay, maximum letter in an input box, 50. Minimum should be 10. So you can set that using max and min. So go to Google and just search for it. It will bring out everything about HTML. HTML is quite popular on Google. So just search for maximum, how to set maximum or minimum amount of letters or characters in HTML input box. So is that clear?
Yeah.
Yes. So those are the attributes you can actually use. Adama.
Yes, thank you very much. I actually I've raised my hand for long. I actually wanted to give an addition to what you're explaining about form, like why you cannot have different input under different form. It's just like when you get to the bank and you want to open an account, they staple some papers together and they give it to you. That's a complete form. So if you want to have the biodata page separately as a form, and then you submit that one, next day you come, you say you want to continue your bank account opening form again, then they will now give you about the other details. It's going to be really, really, different and confusing and complex. So that's the reason everything have to be in one package. So that's the explanation for that. Then is it really a question? Okay, my question here goes to that break that you are entering. I thought break is only just BR, but I could see that you are using a kind of forward slash in your own break.
The self-closing limits. The self-closing that you can remove it. Let's see how it works when you remove it. If you remove the BR, it will still work. You can see it still work. I mean, if you remove the forward slash, it will still work. So that one is not really affecting it.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so any other? So thank you for that explanation anyways. So you're just trying to tell us that they must be together. All the inputs must be together in a complete form. Omawumi, please go ahead. Are you still there? Okay.
Yeah, I can. Good evening, sir.
Evening.
So I have few questions. The first one is, how is it possible to add widgets to HTML, or is it impossible to add widgets to HTML? The regular expression, if you want to specify maybe you want this so thing to carry this so instead of using mean height, mean height can also do that like you've explained. So like for instance, you want your password to have all caps, or you want it to have capital letter, small letter, you want it to have special characters. Is there a way to like use HTML for that? And if there is, if we get to the JavaScript part, is that HTML still going to be useful, or we need to like rewrite it in JavaScript? That's the first question. And second question is, what is really the use of field set in a form?
All right. So you are taking it far. Actually, what I've not treated today, we've not talked about field sets today, right? So I'll be coming back to that your question. I'll be coming back to that your question because I can't go back to field set now. Our time is supposed to end by 9 o'clock, and this is 10 minutes already after 9.
Yeah, I joined late. That is why I'm so sorry.
Oh, you joined late. Actually, we didn't talk about field sets today. So field sets is someone trying to talk?
Yes, because you see the importance of why if they had uploaded a video and some people have watched the thing, it have been, you understand, before continuing the next class. It would have been much helpful. I don't even know of anything called field set now, and we are on another class like this.
We haven't done this in pixels.
This
We haven't done
contains
it.
bringing different stuff. So we shall be talking about probably in core concept of HTML. Maybe you still have another class on core concept. I don't know. So set like used to group HTML. Yes, but don't worry. Look at that.
Okay. Okay. Like my question now, are we good to look into CSS now?
Okay, is that from team? Okay. Basically, we can't do everything with HTML. But I believe with all the materials you have in your LMS, with all the materials you have in your LMS, actually move to CSS. You can actually move to CSS now. So HTML just requires a lot of practice. It's a very interesting language, very interesting, that you can actually learn a lot on your own. So when you practice, then you can move to CSS. By the time you continue building with HTML and CSS, then you understand HTML better. Even there are sometimes when you don't move to CSS, you might actually later get bored with HTML because your interface is just like a dummy interface, no colors, no fonts, no customization, just using the default width and height inbuilt by HTML. So CSS will actually make it more interactive and more interesting as well. So I think you are good to go. Okay, so Vivek, I think this is your first time talking. Let her go first. This is Vivek, or how do we pronounce that? Are you there, Vivek? Can anyone hear you?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. We are with you, sir.
I mean, okay. Among please, let's just make our question very short and fast now.
You've not answered my question actually.
Which of your questions?
The regular expression. Because I know there's
Okay.
supposed to be a way we can use it
Yes,
in HTML.
There's basic regex with HTML, but advanced one is JavaScript. So regex is mainly done in JavaScript. So, and the field sets, we'll be talking about that later. And you can also research more on it, probably on W3 Schools or on htmlreference.io. So these are also some materials you can check out, htmlreference.io. Yeah, I think that's also good. So check those websites out, W3 Schools. we also have the exciting contents about HTML. So, Mkesh, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. This is my last question for today. My question is, everything that all these inputs right now, they are in well, like inside one line, they are there on a straight line rather, yes. So how do we split it? Like maybe username should be by the right, the email should be center, the password should be at the left. Are we going to use HTML or CSS or JS?
Okay, like want to rearrange the structure of this
Yeah,
page
yeah,
now.
yeah. Structure, yes.
Okay, that will be done with CSS actually. Mm, that will be done with CSS. With simple HTML, you can't structure, like you can't style. So by the time you start moving your username to the left, to the center, to the so that's CSS. That will start next week.
All right. Thank
Thank you. So Vivi, can you still there or we should move on? After that, I'm taking just one more question, and that will be all for tonight.
Can I ask one final question?
Please,
One.
I think Vivek is trying to talk.
Okay.
Vivek, are you there? We can't hear you at all. So Tim, just go ahead.
Yeah, I'm talking on based on that Git basis that you guys haven't done any video.
Oh, you haven't done any video on Git.
Yeah, I haven't had any class on Git.
Oh. Okay, there's no problem. I'm actually not the one in charge of the class, but I'll get back to you on that. Just keep in touch in the Slack channel. I'll get back to you. Okay, so Emmanuel, that will be the last one for tonight.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please. I wanted to ask a question about the last class you had before yesterday. So I was looking for the video back on YouTube just to refresh and just to know more about to understand it much better. But I can't find it. I've been looking for it ever since then. I couldn't find
Oh,
it.
you mean the recording
Yeah.
of the last session?
Yes. Yes.
So I think to be ended the class that day. I'll talk to the management as well about that.
Okay.
We are very sorry about that.
No problem.
I'll judge the complaints to them.
All right.
So
okay.
Okay.
That'll be all.
Yes, thank you so much everyone for joining today's session. And at the same time, I'm sorry for taking extra time. This is extra 17 minutes or something. So thank you all for joining, and you can also watch out for CSS in the coming weeks. So enjoy the rest of your night. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, bye. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, good night.